we have to use a phone?
You gotta get put on the phone list, but I'm not sure now because the phone is, I think it's working. And the phone booth. Okay.
It is. Yay.
Yeah, so we
Don't
gotta
need a
figure
phone
out.
card.
We gotta figure out how that works. I know we can use it after 5 o'clock.
After 5:30.
So after 5:30, and we're supposed to be able to get 3 10-minute calls a day. But I'm not sure. Rules change around here every day. So.
Every day.
So I'm not sure, babe.
Well, I might not be able to use the phone until Friday to call.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
I don't know how the sponsor thing works. You know, maybe I'll make an exception that because it's a sponsor, you know.
Right.
Can somebody finish up the basket real quick?
Yes.
I'm going to take a photo today.
Just to
Scrub them off and then
No. What do you have to get?
Scrub the toilet off.
Why you don't go?
No, they're just working. So, Candy, come on, we're going to do test.
Why are you talking?
I think also I think they're just doing it.
Yeah.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail.
Well, that's what I thought. That's right. That's just
Well, that's rude.
perfectly all right. That's fabulous. That's fantastic. That's just good.
Just fantastic.
Fan-stinking-tastic.
Okay, I'm gonna get her stuff out of your way. I'm not sure who sits here, but they need to go away. That's all your stuff, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is just
Now that
Mallory's.
you're on camera,
Hi.
it just breached confidentiality, so I have to write you up.
Why?
Because you breached confidentiality.
I didn't know that.
I'm kidding.
I was like, oh my God, Mr. Moore,
I'm
please
kidding.
don't. Oh, yeah.
Ah.
That was live?
Yeah.
Oh,
Probably.
lovely.
8,000 people saw you.
No,
No, we're
They're
just
just
in-house. It's just the guys.
so the guys probably
And
just saw me.
they probably doing another group, and so they probably
okay.
didn't see you anyway.
Good.
They probably don't have the television on over there.
Okay, good.
So, because Miss Kim is supposed to call me when they are up over there, and she hadn't called me, so I wouldn't imagine. Anybody saw you do anything?
I didn't do anything but grab a book to move it. It was asked. It's been a madhouse around here.
Well, that keeps it interesting. And
Yeah, it does, and if it don't fly, let it fly.
fun. All that kind of stuff.
Oh,
It's 9 o'clock on the dot, lady.
am I drop top prison again? Not really. I like that song.
Well, I hope you have a happy, good, productive, sober life out there, ma'am.
Yes, I am.
Well, we don't need no stuff to mess us up. We can mess ourselves up without any stuff.
Yes.
He gave him a comb over.
So what? A combo.
It's a little utility room.
I'll say something too. You had two in your hand, I was handing you two the same thing.
All right, it's 9 o'clock. So we're starting group, although there's nobody here. But hopefully the guys at South are there. Didn't get a call, but I'm hoping that you're up and you're working the way that you're supposed to be working at South. And remember to sign in on your sign-in sheets. Make sure that you're signing in legibly so that I can read it. If your signature is like mine and it can't be read, then print it out beside it or something. Because if I can't read your signature, then you're not, I can't give you credit for the group. So, we're going to continue today talking about early recovery, what goes on in early recovery. Yes, ma'am?
You have the paper, the sign.
Yeah, it's the sign-in sheet right there. And somebody will grab it here in a minute and make sure it goes around so that everybody in the group can sign it. So we're still talking about what goes on in early recovery. One of the things that goes on in early recovery is a continuation of some type of group. We don't need to, once we get out of here, once we complete this training, once we complete this getting a little sober and getting a little back to being human and all of that stuff, we don't need to give up on that.
I already signed it.
We need to have some group that we can continue with. And that, there's all sorts of groups out there that we can get involved in. We can go to AA group if you have issues with alcohol. You can also go to NA or CA or FA and have a group that you can continue to just be involved in. You can also, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, you can also go to a local church. They have all sorts of groups that you can go to there. There is Celebrate Recovery that goes on at in those local churches. Not every one of them, but a lot of local churches have the Celebrate Recovery program going on, which is a Christian AA group. And so, it works just as well as any of them, and it's good, and it has some good stuff in it. There's also Bible study groups that are in there. There's small family groups, small groups. It's called small group and they get together at people's homes and study the Bible. So those are all good things that we can continue once we get out of here, because excuse me, once we get out of here, and I'd like to say that this group over here at North are paying totally and utter great attention, being quiet and all all of that. So it's a wonderful thing. If you have your book, and guess what you should be bringing to group with you? You should be bringing your book to group with you. If you don't have a book, you need to let your primary counselor know that you are bookless. And if you are bookless, they will get you a book. We're working really hard at getting the book thing to where, because I don't want people to come in and be in the group more than a day or two without a book. And perfectly, the best thing is you don't come to group without one. You get a book the day you get here, and that's what I'm shooting for. And Miss Sierra has a plan on that. She's getting that lined out. Some of you have books that were made over here that's not ideal, but they're a book. And, going through that book. And if you have the book, then you should be studying the book. Where do you begin in the book? Page 1. Makes sense. Right now, today, we're going to be on page 58. And it's the one that has the guy jumping. And so it doesn't have a number on it, but go to 57 and then go one more. And you'll be there. So we're going to go back. There's a couple of more things in the book here on page 58 that I do want us to see. I want us to make sure that we see these last couple of little things that's on the assignment, and then we're going to go over a dysfunctional family and what the roles in the family are, because I'm going to tell you this week, this program is kind of twofold. The first thing is it's in the book. This is your assignment. This is what you're supposed to be doing this week. And it goes through there and shows you week by week and day by day what we're supposed to be doing. So it's pretty fairly easy to follow. All you have to do is read the thing and follow and do what it says do. But then also, every week we have a different thing that we are focusing on, and this week happens to be early recovery in the book, and then family as they pertain to early recovery and to recovery at all. So we want to kind of marry those two together as best we can, and I have found it to be sometimes a little bit challenging to do that, but we can do it. So today I'm going to look at this real good, real well, and finish it up. We've identified our goal. We know the reason we wanted to get clean and sober. In this group here, what do you think the biggest thing is that people tell me that they want to get clean and sober in the North group? When I talk to somebody, why do you want to get clean and sober? What do you think the biggest thing is that they tell me? Family. My children. My children. And I will tell you this, that's a big concern for the guys as well. We want to be there for our families. We want to be sober for our families. We don't want to be in jail. We don't want to be high. We want to be with our, we want to be, and so, that's a similar thing across all genres. So, and then the number 12 says, why did I decide to make the change right now? What happened right now? Why did I decide to make the change? Say it again.
I couldn't go in the prison.
Yeah, good. There's jail out there. Yeah.
With me, it's just like reality setting,
Right.
I'm not getting no younger.
No. There's all of those things are true. Sometimes CPS will force us. Yeah. And tell them not to worry too much about the group, because we're just doing group. It ain't no nothing important, just group. So yeah, lots of things. Probation, parole, CPS, your mama, your family. All sorts of things can cause you to make the decision now. I was killing myself. I knew I was, but I was doing it slowly enough that I could be okay with it. How do you eat an elephant?
Open your mouth.
How do you eat an elephant? How did it? Open your mouth. That's not a real big problem for life. You're kind of into. You're stealing my thunder, man. Man.
How do you eat an elephant?
Man, how do you eat an elephant? I bet somebody over at South is trying to get. We got to get it so y'all can talk amongst each other. But you eat an elephant one bite at a time, just like you eat a sandwich. just like you do anything else. Just one bite at a time. You can't poke a whole elephant in your mouth and chaw on it, right?
No.
It's got to be one bite at a time. Now, here's the deal. That's how I was killing myself, one bite at a time. So if you're doing it one little inch at a time, it's not all that dramatic, right? You don't wake up and say, oh my God, I'm killing myself, so I'm going to quit. So in my own personal experience, I had a real bad car wreck and just messed up everything, totaled out my car, nearly totaled out myself. So that did become dramatic. Right at that point in time, I looked at myself and I said, hey, self, you finna die. If you don't stop doing the crazy, stupid stuff you're doing, you're going to die. And so I said, all right, I need to do something just a tad bit different, right? I only needed to do one thing. What was that? What page are we on?
Page 58.
Page 58.
Okay. How you doing this morning?
Great. We're on page 58. So I had to do just that one thing, and that was to change everything. And the first thing that I needed to change was my imbibation. What does that mean? I had to quit drinking. I was drinking a lot. I had to quit drinking. So once I quit drinking, then I could go and make other things. So what got me to the place where I needed to be? The fact that I had a wreck and I thought I wound up in the hospital down in Galveston, and I was in there for a little bit, and then I went home and I couldn't do anything for a little bit. But that was enough of a wake-up call for me to know that, hey, you know what? It's not a good idea to drink and drive. The DWIs didn't do it. DWIs didn't make it. DWIs were hard. DWIs were bad, but they didn't make it. Because the courts are so overwhelmed with all of us that they, you have a DWI, well, they, a lot of the time they say, well, don't do that, and then they didn't go back home. So that's not everybody's experience. It was mine. So anyway, going forward real quickly, the next part of this, we're on page 58, it says, picture yourself in the future. Can you picture yourself in the future?
Yes.
I can. Yeah. I can look at myself in the future and I say, what is it that I want 5 years from now?
To be far from this.
I want to stay.
To be far from here,
Far from addiction.
this addiction, far from addiction. Look, I'm going to tell you, I think this is a really good treatment facility. I think this is a great place. I think this is wonderful. I go out there and look at the food and everything. I look at the lady that's making the food. I talk to her, and man, I talk to the counselors, and they're really, really compassionate, and they really love you guys, and they're on board with you getting into recovery and all of that kind of stuff. But this isn't a place I would want to live the rest of my life. No, I want to be out somewhere in the country with my nice little house out there with a picket fence and some kind of, dog or cat or something out there in the country, sober, knowing what's going on. When I get up in the morning, I go out and sit on my porch, and my porch is 10 foot wide and 60 feet long, except at one point where it's 12 feet wide, where about 4 foot of it is 12 feet wide because it's going into the door. And I sit on my front porch, and I listen to the birds sing.
That's nice.
It is wonderful. And back in the day, back in the past, when I was using the drugs and alcohol, I couldn't do that. I didn't even know there were birds. I knew every now and then something flew over, but I thought they were like big mosquitoes or something. And, so.
What does invalidation mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, you said it, but I didn't write it.
The definition of what?
Invalidation?
Drinking. Using. I'm imbibing. So imbibing means to drink. But if you put it in Mississippi lingo, it's imbibationing. Anything you can add to a word to make it sound weird is acceptable in Mississippi. That's why when you stop for directions in Mississippi, you will never find where you're going. We're going to get you lost. So here I am. I picture myself in the future, and I picture myself living free of any drug and alcohol or any look. That third thing is even more bigger than all the rest of them. Okay, it stands to reason that I'm going to stay off of drugs and alcohol, right? Because drugs and alcohol got me where?
Nowhere.
Nowhere. Well, not exactly nowhere. It got me here. It got me in jail. It got me in the hospital. It got me here. It got me.
Indeed.
Drugs and alcohol got me. So so we know without a shadow of a doubt, I need to get off drugs and alcohol, not just for a minute, not just for a day. I need to stay off drugs and alcohol the rest of my live long life, right? I got no business. I'm an addict. I have no business drinking any kind of anything. I went yesterday to get a new battery in my phone. Y'all know Verizon does not put batteries in phones?
I am aware of that.
They don't do it. They sent me over to battery bulbs and busybodies. And I went over to battery bulbs and busybodies, and that girl said, well, you too late. That girl had gone. So, okay. How much would it cost? She said it'd be $80.
For a battery?
I said, that's what I said, for a battery. She said, go down to this other little place. So I went down there, and the guy said, okay, I'll replace your batteries, cost you $50. That's a God thing to me, because I stood there and prayed about it, and I said, Lord, let him have the battery, because my phone's a little old, and let it just be $50. And he came back and said, I got the battery, and it's $50. You don't think God is not doing a little something there? Of course he is. He loves me, he takes care of me, and he said, okay, it's $50. Now I'm sitting there thinking, why did I say 30? Or why couldn't I have said free? God can do all things. And so he could have done all that. But, I got it done and all of that. The point of the story is this. I had to wait. It took 30 minutes to put a battery in the phone. And I'm looking at this guy thinking, you're supposed to be an expert, and it's going to take you 30 minutes to take the back off and put a battery in the phone. 37 people walked in and asked him questions while he was working on my battery. And he would stop every time and walk up there and say, may I help you?
That was rude.
And I'm thinking, look, dude, you need to stay seated down at your desk there, work on my battery, and from there say, may I help you from here, But anyway, it actually wound up taking about 45 minutes. But I got my phone and all of that stuff. But the gist of this story, the reason I'm telling this, because I like telling stories. But the other thing is,
You're funny.
in that store, the phone place was inside of a convenience store. So I'm walking around in the convenience store, and guess what I found?
Donuts.
Oh, there's donuts off in there. Yes, ma'am, there's donuts in there. I can smell them, see them. There's booze all over the back of it.
Oh.
And I'm walking down there, and something caught my eye. It was a little bottle of, it looked like booze, but it was actually wine, which is booziest, and it was Wild Irish Rose.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I said, Wild Irish Rose. And this addict alcoholic over here said, oh, that's so good.
But it is good.
It may be good,
But
it's also bottled death.
it's poison.
It is poison. For anybody that drinks it, it's poison. But for us,
It's the best.
it's poison. And the point of that story is you're going to run into that everywhere you go.
Everywhere.
So am I going to get out of here and not have any triggers in my life? No. And we talk about this all the time, but there are always outliers. There may be somebody in this world of billions of people that may go through their life without ever having a trigger. That's not me. That's not you. Not more than likely not you. We're going to have triggers in our life, and as we go forward, we're going to have warning signs in our lives. And look, it pays dividends for me to know what my warning signs are. It also pays dividends for me to know what my triggers are, right? So what do you think your biggest triggers are?
People, places, and things.
Oh, did you say people, places, and things?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Because over at South I told those guys yesterday, I ain't never gonna tell them about old people, places, and things, because what I'm saying, you can't go back around old people, places, and things. Not every one of them, but a lot of them sitting out there going, "That ain't true. That ain't true. That ain't true. That ain't true. That ain't." So I told them, I ain't never gonna tell you that again. You're just gonna have to figure that out on your own. Just go on back out there to Myrtle, and you'll figure it out pretty quick. But you guys know it.
Yes, sir.
See, no, don't be going back to them old people, places, and things. So, and I just want the record to show that I didn't tell South that, I told North that, and they might have been listening in.
Yes, sir.
So thank you, ma'am, for that. Because, see, I didn't even, you said it.
Sir.
Right? So, we're living free of drugs or alcohol, but the third thing is probably more important. And what is that? Anybody got their book open? Okay. What does it say? I want to stay away from drugs and alcohol and, page 58, what does it say? Drugs and alcohol. What is it?
Harmful behavior.
Harmful behavior. You got it. She's looking at her book on page 58 saying, I ain't got that. There it is. Harmful behavior. So what would harmful behavior be?
People that do what you try to get away
Yeah,
with.
old people, places, and things. All of that is wrapped up in harmful behavior. How about you deciding you're going to get mad at somebody and tell them off? Is that harmful behavior?
Yes,
Yes, it is, because when you get angry, how many people have an anger issue? All right, can I tell you? Look, I'm a certified anger resolution therapist as well. Can I tell you something about your anger issue? You don't have one. No, you don't. Nah, and you know why? You know why you don't have one? It ain't no such thing. There ain't no such thing. We can talk about it later on, but it'll cost you money. So we need to stay away from. Look, I need to make sure if I get angry. Here's one of the things that happens when I get angry. I lose 40 points off of my IQ. And if you lose 40 points off your IQ, what will you do? You'll do anything. You'll do all of the things. That's why when you are angry, you'll tell people what you really think. And do you know it's not a good idea to tell people what you really think? You know why? Because tomorrow you may not think what you really think today, tomorrow. And now you done lost a friend, lost a lover, lost somebody that, you really, really care for in your life because you told them what you really thought. Okay. Yeah, So we want to get away from that kind of behavior. I want to say, okay. And look, lady sitting there with a shirt on that says, Jesus loves you. I don't. But Jesus, he loves you. He ain't going to get mad at you, but I will. Yeah. I will. Yeah, I thought that was just, apropos. So here's the deal. We want to stay away from not only drugs and alcohol, but we want to stay away from bad behavior. Harmful behavior. We need to make sure that, I'm not going to be going and doing something that's going to cause me. Harmful behavior is anything that's going to trigger me to you. Getting angry will trigger me to you. Get my feelings hurt will trigger me to you. Going bowling may trigger me to you. Whatever it is that triggers me to use, I need to not do that behavior. Right? I need not to do it. So, I had somebody ask me one time, well, what if going to work? Yeah, what if going to work triggers you, causes you want to drink when you go to work? He was a motorcycle mechanic. And he said, I get triggered every time I go to work because the boss brings booze out at the end of the day, and there I am, and he almost forced. What are you going to do if you can't go to work without getting triggered? What do you do? That's brilliant. Find another job. Go somewhere else. There's so many people around here looking for people. They're begging people to go to work. You don't have to work there. Go somewhere else. Go work. Don't go to a job that every day triggers you to use, because what's going to happen? At some point, you're going to use. If you keep hanging around the bank, you're going to make a withdrawal, right?
Work with kids.
We're working with kids. There's no hope for you. You have to use something. You're gonna have to get some drugs. You can't go. I love children. Don't y'all love children? I love children. I have about 100 grandchildren and great grandchildren. I love them all. I love them mostly when they're at their house. I don't love them as much when they come to my house. I love them at their house. We have a lot of antiques and paintings on the walls and stuff like that in my house because we are filthy rich. That's not true. We had a friend who had an auction, and when he couldn't sell anything, he'd come down and say, "Doc, you want this?"
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That you can have this for $5. I mean, okay. So I've got this painting on my wall. I got about 30 paintings on my wall. That's a signed painting with a certificate of authenticity and all of that stuff on it. That goes for $3,000, and I paid $5 for it. Yeah. People say, "Oh, you rich, I'm rich." Yeah. But it's not true.
You're funny.
But we need to be, look, it says here right now at this point in time, if you look at the rest of it, it says you're in a positive place. This is a positive place. I'm sober. That's the place we're talking about. I'm in a positive place. No matter where I am, I'm in a positive place because I'm sober. I remember the time I wasn't sober, there was no hope for me to get sober. It just wasn't going to happen. I was going to stay unsober. I was going to stay messed up the rest of my life. I had a young man come to my anger class. He was an MMA fighter, and he said, I want to be the world's greatest MMA fighter." I said, "Okay." And he said, "I'm going to smoke dope the rest of my life." I said, "Okay." Those two don't really mix.
Yeah.
They don't go. He got through my anger class, which was 14 sessions long, and he went away, and guess what?
He became the greatest fighter.
I don't know what he had. Never heard of him. He didn't become famous. He ain't the bestest in the world. That was 30 years ago, so he's too old to be one now, so he probably didn't make it, but he's sitting on a couch somewhere going like that. Yeah. So right now, right at this point in time, right at this second, I'm in a positive place. And so are you.
A safe place.
We're in a safe, positive place. Can I be in a safe, positive place when I leave from here?
Yes.
I can be in a safe, positive place, but who is it up to for me to get into that? It's up to me. What if going home is not a safe, positive place?
Find another one somewhere else.
There's places out there, sober living houses out there. Until I get to the place where I can be safe and positive within myself. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you, there are some people out there that I can never go back to. I can never be a part of that relationship ever again. And if I do, I know what's going to happen. So, and here's the deal: you are in a positive place, and this is in the future, and you're maintaining your overall health. So I'm maintaining my overall health. And now, yesterday we talked about some things. How do I maintain my overall health? Exercise, what else?
Eat healthy.
Eat healthy, eat the right stuff.
Get enough sleep.
Meditate. That's a good thing.
Listen to music.
Sleeping enough hours. And when you're in early recovery, you don't sleep well, but that will regulate itself over a period of time. A year from now, you will be sleeping well. If you stay sober. We have to stay sober.
I slept so good last night.
You slept well?
All night long.
Yes. She slept well all night long. I know some of you sleep well. I experienced it here in Groove. Yeah. Some of you are sleeping better than I do. You're sleeping in group, But that's not just in this group. That's in every group I've ever been in. Oh, that's all right. We don't mind you disrupting the group and getting everybody out, taking everybody off, doing all that kind of stuff. We've become accustomed to it.
Randy.
So it's fine. We're doing stuff over here today. So,
Pause until I come back.
yeah, we're going to pause. We're going to just wait until you get back.
Brady. Turn the clock around. Turn the clock around.
No. Don't turn the clock around. I turn the clock around the other way. No, in any of my classrooms that I'm in, I don't have clocks.
That's awesome. I hate
Because
looking at the clock.
people always, how long?
No,
How long can he
go?
go? Oh my Lord! And I have a clock right here that I can.
I got no.
There's a clock on the back of the wall at South.
Yes, but I can't see it. It's back behind here, and usually I have my board up behind it, so you can't see that clock. And it's easy, so. All right, so what alternative ways are you using in that future? We're going to be in that future where we're in a positive place and we're having a good, maintaining our overall health. So what alternative ways are you using in this future to cope with difficult situations and emotions? Let me share a little something with you real quickly. You are an emotional being. You how I know that?
You're a female.
No, you are females, but you are an emotional being. The folks at South are emotional beings. I'm an emotional being. God put in all of us emotion. So you're not going to be able to escape your emotions. That's what we were doing with drugs and alcohol, trying our level best to escape our emotions. Did it work? We could push them down, but we couldn't escape them because we push them down. The moment we get sober again, what? They pop back up. Here they come. Because emotions are like that. They're gonna stick around. They're gonna come. So we can't just throw them away. We can't get rid of them completely. They're gonna come. And as we get sober, those emotions become more alive and they become more raw, and things start to. We have to deal with them on how are you going to deal with all those different. Because I will tell you this. I know also that we're going to have some difficult situations happen in our life. How do I know that?
Because life is hard.
Life is hard, and it's the same reason because we're human beings. We're living on planet Earth. There's some difficult situations going to happen. Anybody have children?
Oh yeah.
All right, that's a difficult situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
You said that again.
I've got 2 boys and a girl, and the girl's perfect. She's fantastic. She's a wonderful human being. The 2 boys, they make up for the girl.
They got all her back.
No, they're good. They're good people, but she's a gooder people. Yeah. And so I have those, and then I have all of these grandkids, and I have all of these great grandkids, and all of that kind of stuff. And they can tug on your emotions. I have a granddaughter that has some emotional issues. And she has anger issues, and she has all sorts of emotional issues, and from time to time she has to be separated from the family. They're that extreme, and I can't talk to her about that at all because you can't treat your own family, So I can't talk to her about that, and so it's a real weird situation, but it is traumatic. When somebody calls and says, "Hey, your sweet little granddaughter that every time you go over there runs up and hugs on you and says, 'Hey, Grandpa, I love you so much,' is in the hospital for mental issues.
Wow.
That's traumatic. So you're going to have issues happening down through your life, especially if there's people in your life. Some of those people are littles. Some of those people are adults. But there's still going to be issues there. So we have to be prepared to deal with it. How did we deal with those traumatic issues in the past? Drugs and alcohol. Let's get high. Let's drink a little bit. The only way I can get by is to get high, right?
Your poet didn't know it.
Right. So now I can't do that anymore. Now I don't want to do that anymore. No, I'm not going to do that anymore. So I got to figure out some other way. One great big way for me is God. I love my God. I love the Lord Jesus Christ, and I love the fact that when I do have some of those issues, I can go to Him anytime, anywhere. The Bible says to pray without ceasing. And so I can, I go to God all the time. And anytime I'm in an issue, anytime there's a situation that shows up, I don't go through that thing by myself. If the Holy Spirit don't want to go, we ain't going. So So that's the way that is. So how does it feel to picture yourself living that way? Can we actually picture ourselves living sober and sane? You know,
I can.
if you look at the big book, it tells us that we're going to turn this over to God and ask Him to get us out of this place of insanity. So what we're doing to ourselves, using drugs and alcohol and doing all of that kind of stuff, is insane, right? And so, you know, when we are can we see ourselves as being positive, being healthful, and being sane? Yeah, it's a big deal to be, you know, off of the juice and off of the booze and off of the drug and living life the way life was meant to be lived in a sane type of situation. Can you see yourself in there? Can you see yourself at that place? I can, and I've been living that way for a while, but I'm still an addict. You know how I'm still an addict? You know how I know I'm still an addict?
How?
I steal from time to time. It runs through my mind. This is why I'm a diabetic, because I became, when I got off of alcohol and drugs, I got on sugar. I began, you know, I just got to a place where I was craving sugar right now, and this is why I know I'm still an addict, because right now I'm looking over there, and there's a box of Milk Duds over there. And saying, look, there's always a pusher.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's always somebody
I'm sorry.
that, you know, I pointed out some Milk Duds that, and the nice young lady said, would you like some? You want some of these? Would you like to die here on the spot? Can I?
No.
I'm sorry.
No.
The same way the lady over there, and I told y'all the lady over there went in her office and she had about 1,000 blueberry muffins. You can have one. I can't have one. You know, if I'm going to eat the one there on the corner, I'm going to have to eat the whole box. I'm going to have to eat those. I'm going to lick the box once I get all of the blueberry muffins out of there. And then I'm going to be mad at you because you didn't bring any more blueberry muffins because they're all gone now. And then I'm going to be mad at you because you made me mess up my diet. Right? So that's how I know I'm still an addict. I have these weird desires and things that my addiction brings to me. Yes, ma'am.
So, okay, I'm done using drugs.
Ain't never gonna use drugs again in your life, not ever.
That's what I say. Now, so I said to one of my counselors, I said, I'm not an addict anymore. I don't desire drugs. And she said, you'll always be an addict. Is that true?
Well, here's the deal. What we do know about addiction is it's just like diabetes. It's like HIV. So what's the big deal about HIV? It is a disease. What else is it?
It's not curable.
Yeah, once you got it, you got
No
it.
bad issue, you know.
Right, you got it. But then you have to deal with it. You have to take the meds. You have to do whatever. Diabetes, same thing. When I went down there and my doctor told me, you got the diabetes. I said, okay, thank you. He said, you're never going to get over it. You're going to have to take all these pills, and you're going to have to eat nothing but what I tell you, because it is incurable. There is nothing that's going to say, take all this metformin and all of this other stuff that's going to eventually destroy your kidneys, and you're going to die. So, but here it is. He said, look, you're going to lose your feet. They're going to fall off. You're going to go blind. They're going to go out. You know, your eyes are going to go out. You're going to have heart disease. And I said, just shoot me now. You know, just get this over with. You know, good. Great. You know, but it's incurable. It is controllable, but it's not curable. It's treatable, but it's not curable.
Right.
This is one of the things that was so magnificent for me when somebody told me, what's going on in your life is a disease. Okay. And I'm not talking about diabetes, same thing. But he said, look, what's going on in your life is a disease. So, okay. Why is that such a big deal? Because that means I'm not just a bad person that's using too much alcohol. That means I'm just not I don't have any good willpower and I'm just using a whole bunch of alcohol because my willpower is gone. It's because I have fooled around and caught a disease, right? So the disease of alcoholism is just like the disease of HIV, just like the disease of diabetes. It is not curable.
It has no good ending.
No, it has no good, but it's not curable, but it is what? It's treatable.
And maintainable, yeah.
It is treatable. So this is part of treating it. Listen, in here, in this room, listening to me tell you what you're supposed to do, that's part of the treatment. Going to your counselor's office and them telling you, okay, and why would they be so mean to tell you, hey, you an addict? You gonna be an addict? You ain't never gonna be nothing but an addict? You just an addict. Why would they tell you that?
Because it's true.
It's important for me to know. It's important for me to know that I'm going to be fighting this thing for an extended period of time. Right? There's no pill. If I can find a pill, if I can ever come up with a pill, I'm going to give it away for free. Well, probably not. Maybe give it away for $100. There's enough people out there that need a pill like that you could become a millionaire giving it for $1.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of us, and there's a bunch of us. Like Miss Reagan, Nancy Reagan said, "Just say no."
Tried it.
Okay, that's a sweet lady. She had a good idea, but if I could just say no, I'd have said no a long time.
Mhm.
Because this thing is horrible, it's terrible, it's nasty, and I want it out of my life. So if I could just say, get out of my life, then I would do that. It's not quite like that. So yes, addiction is not at this point in our history curable. Hopefully they're working on ways to cure it. They've coming up with some good stuff. But at this point, they don't have that pill yet.
So,
Yes,
10
ma'am?
years down the road.
10 years down the
And
road.
no drugs.
No drugs, we're not using it all.
You're
Yes.
still an addict.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
No, not look. 337 years down the road.
Yeah.
If you hadn't used any drugs, you're completely cleaned out. You're still an addict. And when people go by, you've been dead for 212 years. And they walk up and they say, hey, look, here's this grave right here. That old girl was an addict. Still is. If you pull her up and she becomes a zombie and she walk around like a zombie, she an addict zombie.
You're crazy.
Yeah, she a zombie addict.
Okay.
Is that good news?
No.
It's a horrible, terrible thing that we've got this incurable disease. But here's the good news. It's a disease. I know it's a disease. It's not something that I've done. It's not something that I've caused. It's a disease. And so if it's a disease, then it can be treated and we can keep it in check and we don't have to look. What we're looking for, see this, y'all know what all this is? That's addict thinking. Because it wasn't, the question is not, in 10 years, will I still be an addict? In 25 years, if I stay clean the whole time, will I still be an addict? That's not the question. What's the question? Somebody know what the question is?
Am I still
Will
an
I be
addict?
able to use successfully?
No, I don't want to use.
How long before I can use some alcohol drugs again?
I don't want to use.
How long? And see, I just want to use it socially. I just want to use it socially. So, but that's what we're looking for. Because if in 10 years, if I stay clean all of that time, and suddenly I'm not an addict, can I drink? Yeah, I'm not an addict anymore. Sure. That's why we have to understand this thing does not go away. Now, I will tell you something that I believe. I believe this in my believer, and y'all should know this about me already. I believe that if God wants to, he can take it away from you.
Mm-hmm.
If you go sincerely to him and say, hey, I need you to take this away from me, and he he wants to, and I'm saying he wants you to be well, he wants you to be healed, but just like he told Paul asked him 3 times, you need to get this away from me. He said, no, my grace will cover it. My grace is sufficient for you. So I'm going to leave it with you because you need it to keep you humble. We need to understand that this thing's going to be with us the rest of our lives, but it does not need to defeat us.
But I believe even if you go to God and ask him to take it away from you, he's still taking away that urge to, you're still not going to want to drink.
Right.
Never ever going to even be like, oh, I can have a social drink.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too. The lady said, God can take it away from you, but he ain't going to take it away from you so you can start drinking again.
Yeah, he's taking
that's a
everything.
And look, the addict over here in the corner saying, I really don't want to drink again. I just want to be able to.
I think you don't like having a title. I
Huh?
don't like the title. You're an addict. I don't like.
Oh well. I will tell you this. I agree with you. She don't like titles. I don't like that either. I don't like, when I go to my doctor and a young lady and she says, you still an addict? You still a diabetic?
Diabetic.
Okay. Okay. Trying to get my pilot's license back in the day. And she said, you need to start taking insulin. Do you know if you're taking insulin, you can't fly?
Oh.
So I said, no, I ain't gonna do that. She said, well, you're a diabetic and you're getting worse and you're gonna die if you don't take it.
Oh no.
Yeah, So, so here's the deal. All of that, we said all of that because we are in the business. We are as addicts in the business of getting ourselves to the place where we can live with that junk, but live a natural, normal life.
That's what I want.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. See, when I go out there, people know 2 things about me. Pretty quickly, they know that I'm a Christian and they know that I'm an addict.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no compunction about that. When I'm, the folks in my church know, and stuff like that. I'm not embarrassed by the fact. Look, I'm not embarrassed by the fact that I ate so much sugar in my life that I became a diabetic. So I'm not embarrassed by the fact that I used so much alcohol in my youth. I was y'all know I wear the hat. I was in the Army for a long time. And what do you do in the Army?
Drink.
And learn how to kill people and then learn how to kill yourself. You start drinking in basic training and you quit drinking 3 days later and somebody says, what did you do in the Army? Not quite sure. I know I was there because I got the hat, but I'm not quite sure what I was doing while I was there, But nowadays, that's where all of that addiction, most of that came from, was just all of that use,
Right.
When you're doing, I was a nuclear weapons officer, and so when you're something like that, you can push this button and kill. We had a 2.5 ton bomb, and you could. It was called battlefield nuke. You're always on that, all the time. 125 men that would surround that thing when you went to the field and defend it. So if we wanted to shoot it, we could shoot it and then go out 28 miles and then land and blow up in big nuclear. Never had to do it, but So one of the things, or the thing we're going to talk about, and the whole thing's about, we had a good time with all of that, but this is what we're going to do in the future. And one of the things we're going to have in the future is what? Our family.
Oh yeah.
Our family. We've been talking here lately about how hard it is not to go back to family. You gotta. It's a hard thing to say. Well, I'm not going back to my family unit because if I do, I know I'm not going to make it. If I do, I know I'm going to use again. If I do, I'm going to relapse. So in order for me not to relapse, I'm not going to go back to my mother's home. I'm not going to go back to my husband's home. I'm not going to go back to my wife's home. If I do, I'm going to relapse. That's a real hard thing. So one of the things that we want to do is look at the family unit, and how does that family unit work, right? So we have on both boards over there on South, we should have a board up there that shows us this. That's the dysfunctional family role. Just about like this up here on the board here. I don't know how well you guys over there can see this, but I put it on the board over there, and I'm hoping it's still there. But there are several roles. There are some things that we play in the family. There's a role that we have in the family, and we need to know what our role in the family is. Why is that important?
I don't know.
Well,
together, you know.
Well, if we're going to try to get our family together, we need to know exactly what our role is in the family so that we can get back to the family, move the family to a healthier place. Because most families that are dysfunctional are working against one another. You know, that person, I know my dad was a stone cold alcoholic, but we knew how to deal with him as an alcoholic. He would come home and he would, one of his favorite pastime was throwing whatever we had to eat, and we didn't have a lot, against the wall. I remember one time a big old pot of beans my mother had made. Only thing we were going to eat that day, the next day, the day after that, this big pot of beans. That's what we had.
Yeah.
The state had given it to us. We used to get stuff, I don't know if y'all got it over here or not, but in Mississippi we had a thing called commodities. And commodities, once a month, Mom would go down to the welfare office and they would give her a big old box of food. And in that box was that big old thing of peas or beans or something, black-eyed peas. And she'd make that big pot of beans and we'd eat those things. And Dad came in, got tired of beans, and he threw that whole pot of beans against the wall.
Oh, wow.
Now, what happened? What do you think happened?
Confusion.
He
and Mama was mad.
Yeah, she was mad, but she didn't say it. My mama was about this tall, 4'8", something like that. Dad was 6'3". That's why I got caught in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
But he stomps off, cussing and screaming and going out, and the kids are all hiding because that's what we do. Because Daddy's mad, and then when he leaves the house, Mom's got a big old
Messed to clean up.
No. Mom's got a big old spoon, one of them spoons, and she's scraping the beans off the wall, off the floor, putting them back in the pot. And what did she do with those beans?
Feed them to you.
Put them in a bowl. We ate them things. Yeah, because when you're starving to death, somebody says, "Hey, them's floor beans." You don't care. Give me some more floor beans. So anyway. It's important for us to know what role we have been playing so that when we get ourselves back into a family unit, we don't play that role anymore. So let me ask you, in this family unit, who's the victim in a dysfunctional family?
The children.
The children? Who else? Who's the victim?
The mom.
The mommy? She the victim?
Everybody would be.
Everybody in the whole family been victimized by, they're just victims. Okay, no. So nobody's a victim. Yeah, see, she going, nobody's, okay. All right, I want to identify these guys. We don't want to do it all because we're going to do this afternoon, but not this afternoon, but when we get back. But we're going to identify one person before we go on break. And that's the victim. This guy right here is the victim. Who is this? Who is it?
Daddy.
It looks like on this board here that's probably Dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
But more descriptive than just being Dad. Who is he?
Brother, the man of the house.
He's the man of the house. What else? What did you say?
The older brother?
No, this is Dad.
Oh, that's Dad.
Dad.
He look young.
He young.
I don't know what that looks like.
He need to shave now. Doesn't he? Be a little bit older.
Look my goatee.
So what else is, describe him some more. This is
Got
Dad.
black circles under his eyes.
He's the victim in this situation.
Yes.
So give us some more descriptive words about him. Who is he?
He's
Alcoholic.
He's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
This guy's the addict.
Addict.
This guy's the addict. Could be alcohol. Could be what? Could be cocaine, heroin,
Marijuana.
methamphetamines, Mary G. Warner. What was it?
He's the provider. And that's the way.
Oh, usually he ain't much of my daddy didn't provide much. Daddy would go to work. He'd work all week long, and he'd get about $100 for his work, and he'd go to the bank or somewhere and get them all in $1 bills, and then he'd put a $10 bill on the bottom and the top, and he had a lot. He had a lot. And Dad didn't teach me a whole lot, but he told me, he said, son, when you get your money, you pay the bar bill first.
The bar.
You pay your bar bill first. Then you go pay your grocery bill. Because if you don't pay your bar bill, he won't give you any more booze. But the grocery guy will almost always give you more food.
Okay.
Dad was smart. Dad knew how to defend his addiction. So this guy's the addict. So when we look at this family up here, we see that the addict is actually the victim. Why is he the victim? That don't sound right, does it?
Because you told you not to.
Disease. He's got a disease.
He's the one with the disease. And see, all of the crap that he does, if you look at my dad throwing the beans against the wall, what was that?
That was mean.
It was mean. But it was also a symptom of the disease.
It was a bad behavior, you know.
It was bad behavior. But the bad behavior is a symptom of the disease.
And he probably, if he was sober, then he probably wouldn't have did that.
If he was sober, he would never have done that. As a matter of fact, if he stayed sober one day after the next day, he might have had something like, I don't know, a job. You know, so those are all symptoms. Now, when I was a kid, and he used to beat us up, and he used to beat Mama up, and he used to do all of these kind of crazy things, and throw beans against the wall, one time we had pork chops, and he threw those away, and, stuff like that. His mom, he came down, and Mom had 3 pork chops. And she had cut 1 pork chop in half. And I was going to get a half a pork chop. My brother was going to get a half a pork chop. She had a pork chop. Daddy had a pork chop. Grandma came down. We didn't have a pork chop for her, so Daddy just threw them all away. Nobody had a pork chop.
Daddy wasn't fair.
Daddy was an addict. Daddy was an alcoholic.
He was mean.
Daddy was a victim. Daddy had a disease. And all of those things are symptoms of that disease.
So if he would have been sober, probably he would have thought more clearly, like, let's put all of them in half. You know?
Sure, let's cut them all in half. Let's do something. Let's give Grandma a whole one. We'll cut another one in half, and we'll tell Grandma. Grandma lived up on the hill in a big house, and she had a car and a house and a bank account. Go to your own house, eat your own food. We eating this, But he had a disease, and so all of that bad behavior is a symptom of that disease. So and it's tearing the family apart, but it's still a disease, right? It's still the symptom of a disease. So do you get mad at people who have diabetes
No.
because they do something stupid,
No.
like eat a whole pie? We might get a little frustrated with them. My wife rolls her eyes. Like I took her to the dentist on Monday. That's why we only had half of the group on Monday. I took her to the dentist on the way home. She's a little, because she went to the dentist and had a root canal. And I said, well, honey, you know what might make you feel better? Is if we got you a pint of ice cream. And she rolled her eyes and said, what am I going to do with you? I said, well, if you let it go the way it's supposed to go, you're going to eat ice cream with me. Yeah, But that is what? What is that? That is a symptom of the disease. And you don't get mad at people because you see or recognize a symptom of their disease. Sometime with this disease, you may have to get out of the way of that symptom because the symptom of this disease is anger. A symptom of this disease is frustration. A symptom of this disease is really bad physical behavior. These are the people that hit people. These are the people that beat their wives. Because and look, when the wife is getting beat up, it's really hard to look at this guy and say, well, he's the victim. Because he's beat up his wife, he's beat up his kids. My dad did that with regularity. But it still stemmed back to the place where all of that behavior, all of that craziness, all of that stupidity that was destroying that family was a symptom of the disease. So what do we need to do?
Find a cure.
Find a cure. Yeah, we need to cure that disease. If all those are symptoms of the disease, what's another symptom of the disease?
Anger.
Yeah, anger is one of them.
Yep.
Placing blame. So what do we blame? Now he's everybody but yourself. He's the one that has the disease and all of this stuff. But when you ask him, what's the problem? His name was Herschel as well. So what's the problem, Herschel? Well, I can't pay my bill. I can't pay the rent. I can't buy food. What's the problem? I can't keep a job. What's the problem? What's the problem?
Pay the bar.
What is it?
Pay the bar.
Pay the bar. Yeah, he pays the bar. He can pay that one. But what's the problem?
Him.
Him.
He's the problem.
Yeah. So what's he need to do? He
He
needs to stop the behavior. What's the one behavior that he needs to stop?
Himself.
Drink.
It's incurable.
He will place blame everywhere except the drug. It's not the drug's fault.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the only thing that's keeping me sane, the only thing that's helping me cope with you people is the drug. So he's the victim. We're going to talk about these other guys in a little bit. So it is 1 minute after 10. So let's get back about 16 minutes after 10, and we will begin again.
I like this.
I'm gonna go see if I can check to see if I got all of it. All of it.
I did not grow. Okay, I'm just gonna shit. Oh, shit.
Oh, no.
What's happening? I don't know how to turn like this.
You know why?
What?
Okay, you all right?
Oh my god. Have you been sitting across from me? Yeah, you have. I've been staring at Dr. You're not leaving. You're not gone yet.
At 12.
I know.
But I'm gonna leave at 2 because I gotta go to my visit at 11.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're gonna have him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Another hug. Thank you.
Every day the cigarettes is giving it nastier and nastier. We have our next break at 11:15.
11.
She said she might bring the pizza out.
I'll be good.
Head kind of hurts. So we're ready to do week 5 next week. You don't go to church, do you? So you're gonna get your certificate here then?
Yeah, at 12.
Oh goodness. Oh my god, I got a pimple on my chin. Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna do. I was gonna go try to put that bottle. That's got. No, who had one?
One more minute. You want to tell them to come on back in. So how much longer do you have, Miss Mallory?
I don't know. The judge said 60 days, but my probation officer said 90. But the place that I applied for my apartment have some available, so I have no idea. But I'm here 46 days.
You're gonna do what today?
I've been here 46 days today.
6. Yeah, so you're beyond the 45 days. Well,
I may be here till August, but I don't know. I hope that I can.
and you know, I wouldn't give up on things. Wait to see what's going to happen.
I haven't been stressed about it yet.
Here I am.
What was Monica's last
All
name?
right, we're going to get started back.
Rivers.
Daniel.
I don't remember that song.
All righty then. We're going to get started back. We had talked about the victim and the dysfunctional family situation. And the reason that we're looking at dysfunctional families is pretty simple. We want to be able to make some healthier families when we get out of here. We want to make sure that when we go back to a family, we're not the one causing the chaos. Because as we look at this family here, the one that we're talking about as the victim, guess who that would be when we go back?
Them.
That would be us.
How us.
That would be us. We are the victim. But look, being the victim means that we're the one causing all the chaos. We're the one throwing the beans against the wall. We're the ones doing the things that we know we should do, and that we know that is not healthy for the family. That's us. We're the victim, but we're making victims out of everybody that's around. Can you make your boss a victim?
Yes.
Yeah. How do you make your boss a victim?
Not showing up.
Don't show up for work. Those people pay you to come to work at a specific time, do a specific thing. If I cannot do that because of my disease, then I'm victimizing my boss. And I'm victimizing my family, everybody around me, all of the people who are my extended family. Who is your extended family? Cousins, uncles, aunts, all of those things. Your friends. They become your extended family, your AA group, your NA group. All of those people become your extended family. So we are the victim, but we are victimizing a lot of people. And I feel a bit victimized myself this morning, just a little bit.
Wow.
The young lady that is in the bubble there, what's her name? Shonda. She took me to check to see if I had the COVID. You know, and they stick a stick up your nose, and then do all that crazy mess with it, move around all the mucus and everything and all of that. And then after it's all over with, she said, "You don't got no COVID. You're negative. Ain't nothing wrong with you." So here I am sitting there waiting the 15 minutes thinking, well, I'm going to go home. Yeah, I go home for a week, sometimes 10 days. You know, if I still feel bad, I call the boss and say, I don't think I'm quite over it yet. But she said, you're healthy, go home. Anyway, so I'm more of a victim than I, this morning. Feel a little bit like a victim. But the addict's a victim, but he's also the one, or she's also the one that's victimizing other people. So I need to know in my family, if I intend to go back to my family, and is that a dangerous place for me to go back to?
If it's a trigger.
It can be. Is there anybody in my family using?
No.
No? Is there anybody on this board you think might be using?
You never know.
Who that? This guy here?
We know he's
That one in that back, whoever got that hair on
The
there.
blue lady.
Down there at the bottom?
Is that a man or a woman?
Could be.
That be a baby.
Could be.
But he like,
Anybody here could be using.
Anybody.
Anybody here could be using. This guy here could be, all of these people could be using. Everybody could.
An
Trying.
80-year-old grandma.
Say it again?
An 80-year-old grandma.
An 80-year-old grandmother. Yeah, absolutely.
what if you don't have nobody in your family that uses?
Well, if you don't have
be a trigger.
if you don't have anyone in your family using, is that a good thing?
A good thing
Yeah.
as far as, it's a good thing as far as not, but can it be a trigger still?
It can be. You know, here's the deal. What can be a trigger? She asked if you have an unusing family, somebody that's your whole family, nobody in your family is using but you. Can that be a trigger to you? Can it? That don't sound like it ought to be a trigger. Ought to be the opposite. But can it?
Anything's possible.
Yeah, anything can be a trigger. You know, the sun is up this morning. The birds are singing this morning. Anything can trigger you. We have some triggers that are more to us. These are we know they're going to trigger us, but it doesn't take anything at all to trigger you. You need to know those that are going to trigger you bigger and harder and more intensely than just anything. Those are the ones we need to avoid. But if you're sitting on your front porch listening to the birds, you can think about, you know.
Meaning, like, say they were products of a dysfunctional home. And so someone in their home is disruptive. I come from, my parents were products of alcoholism, disrupting this. So when it comes to me, I'm the only person in there that does it. And you're just like the worst thing that what I mean. Could that be like a triggering sign because you're always like, anything you do is just fuck up? Yeah, it's going to be, that can cause you, that can certainly cause you to be triggered if somebody's always pointing you out and saying you're the black sheep of the family, you're the bad guy, you're the one. You know, that is going to be triggering. So what do you do if you're in a situation where there's something in your life that's triggering?
Call your sponsor.
Call your sponsor and tell him you're leaving wherever that triggering is. You know, I can call my sponsor and go back into the trigger and I'm going to get triggered and I'm going to use, and your sponsor's going to do what about it?
Fix it.
Nothing. He'll fix nothing. Your sponsor's not there to fix it. He's not going to fix it.
He'll listen.
He's going to help you work through it and all of that kind of stuff and work the 12 steps and understand that you don't need to be around that trigger. And then it's up to who?
You.
It's not up to my sponsor. I hear so many people blaming their sponsor for their relapse. That's not true. You did that. Yeah, you're doing that. So if there's something in that family that's real triggering, that's going to keep me to being the victim, it's going to keep me in this place where I'm going to be victimizing other people, I need to get away from that triggering device, whatever it is that is triggering me. If my kin folks are on me, I'm gonna have to figure a way to get out of there. I cannot stand that very long. If they are judgmental and after me all of the time, I'm going to have to find another place to stay sober, because that's not helping me stay sober, right?
No.
You've got to have some people that's helping me stay sober. So some of those unhealthy family roles, we already know who this guy is. Who is this person?
Mom.
The mom, maybe. It could be the mom. What do you think she is?
The side chick.
He did not.
This lady is known.
The boss.
She could be a drug dealer.
Boss caller. Stop.
She's the boss caller. She's the boss caller. On Monday morning, she's going to call the boss. And she's going to say, hey, you know, John cannot come to work today. He really, really, really feels bad about not being able to come, but he got the flu on Monday morning. He can't come. What's wrong with John?
He got too drunk.
He's overhung. He's hung over. He can't go to work because he's sick like dog. So he's not going to even try to get up and go and make a living. He's sick. So he's going to hang out there, right? His disease has gotten him for the moment. So he's not going to be able to go to work. But she's going to call the boss and say, hey, you know what? John's sick. He really wanted to come this morning, but he really don't feel well. Don't know what it is. I think it might be the flu.
Yeah.
I think it could be that. So he may not make it tomorrow either, you know, because if he got the flu, that'd take a couple of days. I don't know. Maybe it's just a stomach virus, but he can't make it today. And who else is she going to call?
Call the landlord.
Call the landlord.
The
Say, you know,
doctor.
we really, hey, we're going to have to hold off a week on it because, he had the flu, all right? You can't blame him. I know you want your rent, but look, your rent's been spent, and we ain't going to be able to do that. Who else is going to call? You're going to call all sorts of people. Call the family members.
Yeah. Bringing.
Call the extended family. We can't come to the family reunion. John's got the flu. I don't know how, but he's got the flu. We can't come to the family reunion. And if we did come, we couldn't bring anything because he's had the flu for like 8 years now, and so we can't do that. So what that make her?
An enabler.
She is his. Everybody up here is an enabler, but she's his chief. She's the number one. She's the head She's the head enabler, lady person, right? And so here's what it says about the enabler. Another another descriptive word for this type of codependent family role is the caretaker. She's taking care of him. She's making sure that nobody knows what's going on in his life. Nobody knows what's going on in the family. She's trying to cover him for all his stupidity. Why do we call her the enabler?
Because she enables him to drink. She's making it
easy for him to do what he's doing.
Right. She is enabling him to continue using. She's making it okay for him to use whatever drug it is he's using. So that's what enablers are enabling, his drinking or his use of drugs. So it says, look, it's also a role a child can fulfill. Sometimes it is this girl here. She'll be a very high enabler. The enabler feels like, especially the case where the parent or caregiver has not resigned to enable or dysfunction addict or narcissistic patient. Sometimes this person is saying, I'm not enabling him all that much, so this one will. So it says, look, the enabler feels like they must keep the family going. No matter what, I got to keep the family going. Is that a true statement? No. Families break up all the time. As your children get older, guess what? It's a magnificent escape clause that God put in the family. What happens as children grow older? If everything's working right, they leave. They gone. What's the question you ask your son or your daughter the day after their 18th birthday?
When you get out of my house?
Yeah, what are you doing here? Don't you got a job? Don't you have a place to stay? You got a nice big car. Go go stay in that. We're not doing that. Don't look at me like that. We're not doing that. The enabler can be, the enabler feels like you got to keep the family going over and over. They often support not only the dysfunctional behavior, but also a prime enforcer of the codependent rules everyone else has to play in that family. You often see this role in the family where the functioning of the parents is impaired in some way. There's mental illness, substance abuse, or medical disability. This child will attempt to function as the surrogate parent. They worry and fret, nurture and support, listen, console. Their entire concept of self is based on what they can provide for somebody else. Now, I am a provider in my family. I provide for my wife. Right now, that's it. She and her dog. I provide for those two. But I don't provide for everybody in the world. I'm not going to. I'm not going to try. But in the family, I've got kids, and they've got kids, and their kids have kids, and I'm not providing for all of those people.
No.
right? Can't. I don't have the resources for all of that. The enabler protects, takes care of the problem parent. So the parent's never allowed to experience the negative consequences of his or her action. If you had a child and they called you up, they're like 16, and they called you up and said, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm down at mile marker 413, and there's a rest area right there, and I parked my car in there, and I'm drunk as a skunk, and I can't drive home. What would you do? Would you go get them?
Go get them.
Yeah, everybody agreed that you would go get them. Those are your children, right? Yeah. Okay. So what have you just done? You just enabled them. They know now that when I get drunk and I'm driving my car, if I get a little freaked out, I can pull over to the side and call my mom or call my daddy, and they're gonna come get me. So I have, understood. There's gonna be some consequences. I'm gonna yell at you. I'm gonna let you know that ain't how my children are supposed to act. I'm gonna tell you how stupid that is. I'm gonna tell you how disappointed I am in the fact that you did all that. But I'm also brimming with pride that you called me. You did the right thing. Yeah. And so the next time they call you, you're gonna go get them again.
What should you do?
No, well, let me tell you. The next time you call them, you're gonna go get them again. The next time you call them, you're going to go get them again. And the fourth or the fifth time, you don't get called by them. You get called by the highway patrol who says, hey, you got a kid that's got red hair and is stretched out across 3 blocks? Yeah, you got a kid is this your kid dead on the side of the road over here? And y'all don't get angry, but you're gonna go to the funeral. And when you're at the funeral, you're going to be crying. And you're going to be, oh, my woman. You killed him. Yeah. You did it.
What should you do?
You should call the police. That's what we pay those people for. There is a young man. He's 16 years old. He's sitting in the thing over there. He had parked his car, and he drunk. Go get him. Now, there's 2 things to take it. They go get him. If he don't fight, don't act a fool, they're just going to put him in jail overnight. They'll probably bring him back home. He'll get charged with PI. If he says he was driving, he can get charged with a DWI. I don't know whose car that is. I just walk over here, But there should be our action should have consequences that meet the level of the action, right? You yelling at a kid does not meet the level of the action, which is getting drunk and then driving my vehicle, which could have killed me and several other people. So just mama yelling at them, daddy yelling at them, it does not reach that level of consequence. They need to spend a night in jail. Y'all ever been in jail for being drunk? I loved it. It was wonderful. I can go down here in Anahuac. They take you up there and they take your boots off. No, they didn't. They took my belt. They took everything else. They put me in a holding cell. They called it a drunk tank. And the holding cell in there was freezing. And there was the bed was a metal cot that didn't have any blankets, no mattress, no pillow, and I had to crawl up on that metal thing, and it like seared into my back. It was so cold. It was horrible. They did that on purpose. I had my boots because I used them as a pillow. When I woke up the next morning, they said, "What is it that you want? Just kill me now. Let me go home. Let me go do something." So they got me out of there. But there were consequences. And so consequences are our friends. What got us here? Consequences. Consequences are our friends. So it's not a bad thing for our children to go through the consequences of their actions, right? So this lady here is an enabler. That's what she does. That's her job in the family. is to enable, to make it okay for him to use. What should she do?
Say no.
She should allow him to meet the consequences. Call up the boss. John's drunk.
Yeah.
He ain't coming to work today. He's drunk. Well, we're going to fire him. Okay. All right. Can't pay the rent. Hey, guess what?
Evicted.
We're going to spend some time with my mom. We're going some, I'm going to, what?
Gotcha.
That's, these are the consequences. You don't have a job anymore. These are the consequences. You don't have a house anymore. You don't have a car anymore. You don't have anything anymore. These are the consequences of your action. I'm not going to keep you. But she's not going to do that because she is the chief enabler. That's what she's going to do. That's her job. Now, this one over here, what do you think she is? Look how serious she looks.
The daughter.
She has a daughter. What else? She what? She does have some enabling characteristics, but this little girl is the family hero. She's the hero. What does the family hero do?
Say.
Well, see, while Mama's over here probably using something of her own. Say it again.
Protecting the
She's keeping the family together, watching the other kids.
She is. She's doing the cooking.
The cooking.
She's doing the cleaning. She's taking care of the kids. She's using her babysitting money to buy groceries. She's doing all of the things she needs to do to make sure that the family is focused on something other than
Alcohol and drugs.
the alcoholic that's in here. She don't want anybody to know about this guy. This lady is hiding it from everybody in the world. And when they come look at the family, this one is going to show them something fantastic. She's a very high achiever in school. This little lady here makes A's and B's in school. And when she makes B's, she beats herself up because she didn't make an A. She's also a little bit of an enabler. She's going to help Mama enable for him. She's going to hide the fact that he's who he is. No, everything. Look at me. Look at me. Everything is perfect. Everything is wonderful. And if I had problems, there were problems in my family. I couldn't be. I'm a cheerleader, right? I'm number one in my class. I'm doing everything. I'm raising. These children, we're doing all of this stuff, and when you come to the kids, when they go to school in the morning, they're clean, they have a lunch, everything is the way it's supposed to be, and who does that? The hero. And how old is the hero?
Her little teenager.
She's like 12 years old. She's not supposed to be the mom.
No.
But that's what she's doing. She's taking on the mother's role, right? The family member devotes her time and attention to making the family look normal. Without problems. There's no problems here. The hero can mask or make up for the dysfunctional home life. Over-responsible and self-sufficient. They are often perfectionistic. That means they have another disease.
Perfectionist.
She's a perfectionist. I have that disease myself. I'm a perfectionist. Does that mean I'm perfect?
No.
Oh, come on now.
No.
Come on.
That's perfect, darling.
I'm pretty close to it. What is the disease of perfectionism? What that does is I just don't want you to see me make a mistake. It doesn't mean I don't make mistakes. It means I don't want you to know it. So I will lie, cheat, steal, hide it, anything that I can do to keep you from knowing that I screwed something up. And that's what she'll do. She's hiding everything. She didn't want anybody to know that there's an issue in her family that shouldn't be there. So, she's a perfectionist, an overachiever, looks very good. On the outside, this is the kid I would like to have. These are the children I want my kids to be just like that. But no, you don't. Not really. I want them to be. I want to be able in my life. I want to be able to make a mistake and not have it destroyed. I want to be able to make a mistake and it not cause me to have a bad day all day, every day. You know, this stuff that we do here, I'm not all that technically advanced. You know what I'm saying? And my boss lady said, "Look, do this like this." And I said, "All right." So I did it like that, and it didn't work. So that makes me feel like a dummy. It shouldn't. I ain't never done that before. We got it done today. That was a good thing. Yeah, that was a good thing. I looked on Google this morning to get somebody to show me again, just so I would have it. And there was about 30 different of those things on there, videos. All of them told you how to do it a different way. And one of them was from England, and he told you so fast. You know, go to it, you got that, mate? Yeah, got it.
We did it.
Got it.
Going.
Yeah, it came out. Yeah, it's working. So here's the deal. They always look good on the outside. The parents look to this child to prove that they are good parents and good people. Their goal in life is to achieve success. However, that's been defined by the family. And then they always are brave and they always are strong. So this one and this one are going to look at this one and say this one is proof that we're good parents. This one is proof that we're doing the right thing when they're not. Because she's working herself to death to try to hide that. Yeah. So, who is, well, we don't have that person. Who is this guy over here? He's kind of goofy looking. Who is he?
He's a teenager.
He's a teenager? Well, that ain't any teenagers like that.
I think it's all of them.
All of them? Yeah, all of them are messed up, but this one here is what we call a scapegoat.
They don't pacify him.
A friend.
What does scapegoat mean?
Help you escape the problem.
What is it?
Someone that helps you escape.
Something that helped you escape the problem?
Someone that gets like the blame and
Say it again.
he will get like the blame from him.
Oh, he's going to get the blame for everything? Why does he get the blame for everything?
Because he's just scapegoat.
He is the scapegoat, but here's the deal. He's a butthead. He's the one who's going to break all the rules. He's going to want to go. He's the one that's going to go to school and get fights, do some stupid stuff. He's the one that's going to be, the police are going to be coming to the house and saying, "Hey, where's Junior?" He's the one that's going to be. Why is he doing all that?
Because he has everything bottled up.
He's got everything bottled up. And what's the point of the family?
He's getting the best.
Is it because they've always like made him the bad person or whatever? Like, you know, I don't know how to say it, but like they've always kind of used him to put blame, and so now he's.
Yeah, look at him. There's something wrong with him. But here's the deal. What's he doing? He's getting the focus
Off
of anything going on in the family bad. Can't anything be going on in the family? If there's something that's happening, Dad's drunk on the couch, he'll start a fight with the police out in the front of the house. He's going to do something, and the police already know him. They expect to have issues with him. So when they come, what do?
Blame him.
They get him, and they take him to jail, and that leaves him drunk on the couch, her maybe high, using some pills in the kitchen, saying, "Everything is all right, y'all." Where's Bubba? Bubba done got in trouble again. But we're gonna take Sissy gonna get some money out of the cabinet and go down and get Bubba out of jail later on today. She'll take care of that, because I just don't feel like it. And John has the flu.
Yeah.
He has the flu a lot. He has his system is kind of compromised, and so he has the flu a lot. So he's keeping this guy here is in trouble all the time, and he's keeping the focus off of this guy. So keeping the focus off of the problem in the family, and in that, what does that make him? A little bit of an enabler, right?
Yes.
He's enabling him a little bit. This one is the chief enabler. He's enabling a little bit. This one is enabling him just a little bit more. So the scapegoat, we got to go a little quicker. It is 10:45, ma'am.
I'm hungry. I'm sorry.
The scapegoat is the problem child or the troublemaker in the family. A family member he's defiant, he's always hostile, he's always angry. Scapegoat is the truth teller in the family and will often verbalize or act out the problem which the family is attempting to cover up or to deny. So he's letting it all out, but in doing that, he's bringing all of the condemnation and all of the mess down on him, which is keeping the victim clean from all of that.
What is that one watching TV?
We're gonna get to that. It's 10:46 now.
I'm just asking.
That's the problem. We'll get to that one next.
Okay.
The family member is always defined. He's the truth teller of the family. He's going to verbalize all of that stuff. Family's attempting to cover it up, deny it. This individual's behavior warrants negative attention and is a great distraction for everyone from the real issues at hand. What's the real issue in that family?
Drugs
and alcohol used by the victim. If the victim would just stop using drugs or alcohol, things would change. See, all of these people are doing their own thing to try to get this family working well. This one's doing his, this one's doing hers. But if the alcohol and drugs got out of the family, then they would all start working together like one well-oiled machine and become a real family.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do that, so they focus all of their negative energy on him. Sometimes they can be very clever in doing it. They may have some social skills within their circle of peers, become leaders in their own peer group. But the groups that they choose to associate with is usually gangs and stuff like that, drug pushers and all that kind of stuff. They don't associate with the right people. Now, he's an enabler of something. So this is a little girl down here in the bottom, and she is watching television. Who is she?
She just said
The innocent child.
Innocent one, another victim.
Yeah.
Who is she?
She say lost that dream, like the dreamer.
Lost soul.
Yeah, lost
child.
We call her the lost child. What is her greatest attribute?
Stay out the way.
She's not.
Stay out the way. Yeah, she's gonna stay out the way. She works really hard at being invisible.
She's out the way to make sure she don't get the backlash.
She don't get the backlash from any of the stuff that's going on in the family. She creates relationships with inanimate objects instead of people. She will fall desperately in love with her Barbie doll, with a television show, with the dog, a pet. Those are animate objects, but that is true too, other than people. But inanimate objects, say a piece of wood or a piece of paper or something, she will, and her whole goal is to be invisible. This is really sad for these young ladies. A lot of these people, and they're not always girls, but a lot of the times these guys die from suicide in their early teens. Right? See, the lady sitting there is a scapegoat because she being nasty. back to the group, talking, all of that stuff. So she's a scapegoat. She's in trouble all the time. So the lost child is usually known as the quiet one, the dreamer. The lost child tries to be invisible. They escape the family situation by making themselves very small and very quiet. You'll find them hidden in corners and stuff like that, hidden behind stuff. They'll just be away. They're not going to be in anybody's way. Nobody's going to even know that they're there most of the time. The purpose of having a lost child family is like that of the hero. The lost child is rarely in trouble. They can say, well, she's a good kid. And my dad's greatest statement to us was, kids are to be seen and
Not her.
not heard. So that means we had no say in the family. We had no input into the family. We just had to help scrape the beans off the wall.
Called floor beans.
Yeah, floor beans. So they're a good kid. They avoid interactions with other family members. They basically disappear. They don't want to talk to anybody about anything. They become loners. They're very shy. Lost child seeks the privacy as his own or her own company. Because they don't interact, they never have a chance to develop any social skills or communication skills. They often have poor communication skills. See, we already got one scapegoat. We don't intimacy and informing relationships. They deny that they have any feelings. They don't bother getting upset. They deal with reality by withdrawing from reality. In the family, the lost child just doesn't seem to matter to the narcissist and avoids conflict by keeping a low profile. They're not perceived as a threat or as a source of supply. They're just there. They attach to people and not things. Then the last one we have, and is this one an enabler at all? Yeah, she's an enabler to just like the hero's an enabler. When the parents put their children on display, they want the neighbors to see their kids or something. They're going to show them the hero and the lost child because the hero is a hero and the lost child is not a problem. Yeah, she's not a problem. She's not causing any trouble. We don't want to talk about Bubba here because Bubba's a butthead. We don't want to talk about him. But boy, I can't remember what her name is. She's not around, but she's a good kid. She's my baby. And they usually are the baby. So what's this guy here?
Troublemaker.
Another troublemaker. He is. This guy here, though,
Troublemaker.
he's known as the mascot. And the mascot, he's drawing attention away from dad, and then that makes him what? An enabler. He's drawing attention away from dad. He's learned that he can get attention. He needs some attention. This guy's getting all the negative attention. Everybody hates his gut, but we need attention. And so if we don't get good attention, we'll get bad attention. And that's what's going on with him. He's getting all this bad attention. This guy here has learned that if he can make you laugh, he can get the same level of attention that this guy's getting, but doesn't have to go to jail for it. So he's giggling. He's having a good time. Everything that he does, it turns out funny. So when you were growing up, what was your family role, do you think?
I don't know. I don't know that we have this done yet.
All right. She's still thinking about her family role. When I was growing up, my family role was hero and mascot.
I was just saying.
You're a dual role too?
You can be one or the other. Which one's for yours?
I was more the hero and the lost child.
Yeah. So we can add some of those together. So, I was that because we were starving to death and all of that kind of stuff, and I was just trying to keep the family together. But it's also, from day one, I found everything that I ever did funny. When I went to get and everything happens to me funny. I don't know why. I think that's a God thing. I went to receive my doctorate degree, and I noticed that when they were walking, you got to wear the robes with 3 stripes on them, and I'm feeling real good about all of that. And I watched, and these guys, as the stairs were just kind of close together, and that they was going up to the dean, and he would hand them their thing. And as they were going, they kind of looked like they were bumping up. I said, well, I'm going to take care of that. I ain't going to do all that. So when I'm going to take 2 steps at a time. Now remember, I'm wearing robes that are way down below my feet.
Right.
So I stepped on the second step, and I stepped on my robe, and then I went. Fell right down into the arms of the dame. And this is very solemn occasion. Everybody in the house is laughing. Yeah, so I was part of this. And his big deal is just to make everything that he can funny and keep it from being focused on this guy. So, all of these people, this is a dysfunctional family. We get the dysfunction out of this family. Sober this old boy up. And how are we going to sober him up? This one has to stop. She got to stop. He's got to get the consequences that he needs for his actions. If he never gets any consequences for his actions, what is he going to do? He's going to keep drinking. He's going to keep using. I mean, if it's unconsequential, if there's nothing going to happen, if nobody's going to call me on my behavior, I'm going to keep doing what I want to do because I'm a victim, I'm an addict, I have a disease, and my disease says continue. So I need to get consequences. If the only thing that's going to help him get sober is to lock his butt up in LeBlanc out there, let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, let's get him out there. He needs some consequences. Now, this one has to stop as well. I'm not the mama. Y'all remember that? I don't remember what cartoon show it was, but the little baby would say all the time, not the mama.
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaur, you're not the mama. So she needs to learn she's not the mama. You're not the mama. Not everybody can be the mama, and you are certainly not the mama. You're just a 12-year-old kid. Shut yourself. And in my opinion, 12-year-old kids, I want them to be verbal and do what they do. They should be out playing. They should be kids. I went to the parts store about a month back, and I want a particular part. Here comes this 12-year-old boy out. He said, can I help you? I said, no, you can't. You 12. He said, I work here. I said, no, you don't. You 12. Maybe your daddy, my daddy died, so go get your daddy. You 12. You need to be 12 and you need to be 11 and you don't need to be trying to get my parts. You're getting out. You need to be a kid. So, if your daddy is using you as the hero, send him out here. I'm going to help him. This one needs to knock it off to some extent. It's okay to be funny, but you don't have to be funny to the point that you're distracting from him. Let him get his medicine.
I was more of a master. I got away with a lot.
Yeah. And that's what happened to me. You get away with a lot in school and everything. We get the principal laughing when you go to the principal's office. He'll say, Herschel, get out of my office, man. I did. Okay. Yes, I did. I did do that. Yes, sir. And so all of these, the lost child needs to get out of her funk and get into the family. Stop enabling everybody. This thing is dysfunctional. And if your family's like that, we need to fix some of that. When we get out of here, we need to go into a healthy relationship.
Yes.
And look, I'm not enabling anybody. And I don't want anybody here enabling me. If you see me even look like I think I want to drink or something like that, stop me. Do something. Call the police. Do what you have to do. Don't enable me. Don't enable me. And I won't enable you. We're going to work together as a functional family.
What if you want a piece of chocolate cake?
What if you want a piece of chocolate cake? We talked yesterday about riding the urge wave. You don't have to have a peach cake. You can have a peach cake, but you don't have to have. Right? Just like the drug. You might want to use some cocaine, but you don't have to use cocaine. Right?
My dad used to tell me, "Oh, it'll be all right. You'll be all right." Instead of
You'll be all right.
Instead of like, "No, you're on it for 2 weeks." You know what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
He just overlooks it.
These are not mine. We don't have any tap folk in here right now.
Oh, I do.
Well, thank you folks over there. Get your signing sheets together.